Hello everybody, my name is Thor Young. I'm a moderator at Bear Bull Traders and I would like to do a recap for you today. Today's recap, as I generically try and always highlight a specific instance or something that I'm looking at to take a trade, today's recap will be no different. In my last recap, I talked about the opening price and how significant that can be. As you can see on NEO here, that came into play today. But mainly I want to highlight on this some pre-market levels and how you can really utilize those in order to help you assist in your trade. So my indicator that I spoke about last time that was really easy is opening price. My next two indicators that I like to use that are very, very easy to use are pre-market high and pre-market low. Throughout the pre-market process, the stock will often move up and down in a range, and it establishes what will be a very obvious range over time. So in this instance, I want to show you, we've got pre-market high, which is in pink here, right, up here, and then we got pre-market low, that's down here, or sorry, in purple. So notice that we go from the top, we make pre-market low earlier, go all the way to make this pre-market high, which is near a daily level, and then we come all the way back down to open. So my main thing I'm looking for is especially for an opening trade, is how is that level going to play? Now, one thing you'll notice is I have my daily chart here, so you'll see that I've been trading this pretty well. One thing I notice is that we're really near this like daily break range right here, right? So if we can get into this gap here where there was obviously a lot of selling pressure before, we can probably get a squeeze going through here. So I like that we're kind of near this empty area where I may be able to look for getting a squeeze. And then if we get above that area, then we're talking about a daily breakout, right? So we could really get some stuff going on this. And I wasn't even looking at NEO today because it was a little lower volume than usual, but we had a member in the chat actually call it out. Once I got looking at it, I was like, yeah, I really like this. So the question is what is it going to do when it opens? So you can see we opened here, we sold off pretty heavy down into pre-market low, but look at the volume profile on this thing. Look how the volume actually declined, right, as we were pushing down. If you were expecting this to be a heavy sell-off, I would expect higher volume and a continuation in volume as this thing pushes down. Using VPA, when you see movement in stock price, you expect volume to come with that movement. It's an anomaly in VPA to see the stock price moving without that volume coming behind it, and it shows there's not a lot of commitment to the direction of the move. So you can see here we were declining on volume, and then we pushed up here through indecision, and then made that new high right there and started pressing back to VWAP. Once we got above VWAP, I just thought, if this thing holds VWAP and makes a new high, I'm going to go ahead and give this thing a shot. Because I think at that point we're really going to look at moving back up and probably challenging the opening price and trying to hold the opening price. Now, a little bit safer of a trade would have been a little bit later, which I actually would have waited for it to retest VWAP and hold the opening price and make that high right there. But I was feeling really confident with the way it looked like the bid was setting in that we were going good. Notice when I got in here, we pushed up, we made that new high, and then we had our participants come in and really start helping me out. My entry was right here at a 58.85. My stop loss was the loss of my entry candle in this instance because I let it sell off, establish a low, and then make a new high. So if it loses the low of that candle, I have no idea if it's going to stop at pre-market low or whatever. So that's my best area. So I'm just going to go along there. And you're talking about only about 10 cent, less than 10 cents risk there on that one. Now I went pretty heavy on this trade. I took $100 risk on this trade, so it probably leveraged me in around 1,200, 1,500 shares, something like that. And then we got a nice push up here, and this is where the bread and butter comes in. Nice big entry, held for a nice 3-to-1 before I took my first partial, and I just took a third off there. I took a half of that off, and then a little bit more of that. And by the time I got up here, I was down to about 10% of my position. So I decided I was going to try and do an add or stop. So I went ahead and did an add because we held pre-market high. Now, talking about pre-market levels, notice we're back here. Now we're going to talk about pre-market high. We broke pre-market high. We came back here, tested it, held it, made indecision, and then made a new high. So I was thinking we were pretty good there. So I went ahead and added in there, but sure enough, got stopped out when it pulled back below the daily level. Didn't take too long there before it consolidated for a bit and then broke up. We talk a lot about consolidations. How do you know when the stock's coming out of one? Well, here's a really clean example. You see the lower volume, which indicates we're in this consolidation period here. And notice, as soon as we make that high and start breaking out, there's our volume indicator. This thing's moving, right? So I went ahead and got in at the new high. Once it made indecision and looked like it was holding, I added in a little bit more. My initial risk on this entry was the loss of this hammer candle. This add, my risk went up to the loss of my entry candle because I really liked the way it was pressing, and we pushed up there, got a partial near high of day, another one at the break under R4, and then I've ticked off a little bit here. Down to still holding about 20% of this position, and I'm waiting to see if Neo is going to do anything else for the day. We did break up into this daily range here, and Neo is fully capable of putting in, you know, a $6 candle. So I don't want to get out of this thing and rob myself of some potential profit. But if it comes back down beneath, you know, maybe R3, even VWAP, maybe I'll think about bailing. At that point, I'll be so close to break even, I'll probably just let it run all the way. But if it comes up here and holds and starts making new highs, my next profit targets are going to be around the, you know, probably see how we have this candle here. $62 is going to be probably where I'm going to throw my next partial. And then I got basically one partial left out of that, and I may let that run all day and see if we can come back up near $64. So anyway, just a quick recap on my Neo trade today. One thing that I like to talk about is a lot of people come into these things looking for an easy way to trade and something like that. And unfortunately, it's just not that simple, but you can use simple indicators to trade with that make some of the discovery process a lot less difficult, right? As a new trader, starting to learn price action, patterns, all these different things can be very, very difficult to do. But pre-market low, pre-market high, the opening price, previous daily levels, those are fixed things that will exist all day. And like this, right, we held pre-market high and then made that new high, and that's what I liked. So I went into a position here again for that break, right? These levels will be used throughout the day. And if you're having trouble figuring out where you're going to take a trade, wait for it to interact with these levels and then bounce. If you're having trouble finding the levels, come by the pre-market show with us and check that out. If you want that, just go ahead and subscribe to the channel and ring the bell. You'll get notified in the morning. We have Carlos there. I do the pre-market show from time to time when I'm filling in for normally Norm, and you get all the latest market news, all of those things. And then most importantly, Carlos will go through and show you where those key levels are and you can utilize the trade with. If you enjoyed the video, please feel free to throw me a thumbs up. Otherwise, I hope you all had a great trading day today. And as always, keep it green.